Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us, our online audience, and we really appreciate you taking the time to watch this month's and this evening's episode of our seminar series of the Dr. AMRIE Morris Patterson G.I.F.T Foundation seminar series that we have been at since last year. And this month we are embarking on a new topic, as would have been advertised. We are looking at the success mindset. The success mindset was subcaptioned strategies, setbacks, and soaring. You know, we all aim for success in life. However you choose to define that, we will be looking at what exactly is success and you know, how do we achieve it, or the various factors in achieving success in life, or various aspects of life. And this evening, we have very distinguished guests who will be joining us for this discussion. We had a little setback, as we have been discussing before we came on this evening. We were hoping that two of our panelists would be able to join us virtually, but we are having some technical difficulties, and unfortunately they would not be able to join us this time around. We are hopeful that we will succeed the next time in having them. So, you know, as they say, this is all part of life. And as our topic for this evening is, you know, you have setbacks. How do you approach them? Do you take it as a learning experience and grow from it, or do you just, you know, give up? But so next time around, we look forward to having our two guests who are supposed to join us virtually. That's Maurice John and Franz George. But in studio this evening, we have with us to still have a very fruitful and rich discussion on the topic, at least this first installment of the topic. Dr. Shara Stewart, educator, and also with us is Mrs. Venice Jack, office manager at Jack's Enterprises, one of the very well-known businesses here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, very well established and very well patronized. So very happy to have both the ladies here this evening, and we're going to right into our discussion. We are after a late start, but we're going to cover as much as we can of this topic this evening. I just want to give them the basic introduction, right? Just want to give them an opportunity to share a little bit about themselves, you know, family-wise, and whatever else they would like to share that, you know, they would like the public to know. So over to whoever wants to go first.
Okay, I will go first. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Shara Olivia Stewart, and as you heard, I am an educator. But besides that, I have 3 children, and they're all under the age of 10. I like to sing. I think I can sing. I'm not too sure what others think.
Yes.
Sometimes. And I like to empower the youth. I believe that everyone can succeed, no matter how small it is. You know, so I like to empower them, challenge them to do better, be their better self. In my spare time, I'm very outgoing, so I like karaoke. Did I tell you I like to sing? Yes. Yes, I like karaoke and hanging with friends and enjoying a good fruit punch. You know, my friends would always say, yes, Shara, you have a fruit punch. And that's about it. You need anything else? Did I miss anything?
All right, we'll take that from that's all right, yes.
Pleasant good afternoon to everyone. My name is Venice Jack. I'm employed at Jack's Enterprises, as you heard. I have 2 adult children, I was a teacher for 2 years. Many persons do not know that. But after I got married, I joined my husband's family business, and I've been there ever since to now. I enjoy walking. I walk a lot, and hiking. I enjoy working with children at my church. I've been working in the children department for over 30 years. So I'm qualified to retire, but I'm still there, not retiring as yet.
That's retire from the...
Yeah, I love young people. I like to see them grow up, mature, and take their rightful place in life.
Right, great. Thank you very much. You know, one of the, you might say, the stimuli for this discussion is, you know, we have a lot. We always strive, as you mentioned. We always encouraging our young people to strive for success, to be the best that they can be, and you know, this is this program generally focuses on, you know, you might say psychology from a Christian perspective. Most of the programs that we have looked at, we would not have a psychologist on the panel, or somebody within that sphere of counseling, psychology, and so on. Our last topic we looked at, you know, crime and violence, and we thought, you know, let's shift a little bit, because when people talk about success, usually there's a particular, you know, kind of definition, or you know, certain things come to mind, and it is, I think we need to kind of balance it out, or give a more holistic understanding of what success is. So hence the topic for this evening, because mental health is really one of the key issues when it comes to success. So we're going to touch on that a little bit, but we want to define success. What exactly is this thing? We normally, when somebody is deemed successful, it's, you know, an Elon Musk or a Bill Gates, you know, people who are basically millionaires, billionaires. You would hardly find somebody say, if somebody were to say, for example, Elon Musk is not a successful man, right? People look at you strange, and they was, no, of course he's successful, right? But I always remember this Bible verse where Christ said, beware of covetousness, because a man's life consists not in the abundance of the things that he possesses, right? So if you really want to, yes, we want to, I mean, I don't mind if my children were to become millionaires. I'd be great, I'd be happy, right? But I do not want that to be at the expense of their spiritual life, or, you know, other aspects of their life. I was joking with my daughters, and we're in the car driving, and well, the younger one is about to go to university. So I asked them the question. It's kind of a provocative question. I said, so if you were to make, say you start a little business, whatever little side hustle, right? And you become a millionaire, would you still want to go to university? That was the question. Would you still have the desire to go to university? And they honestly said, well, I don't remember which one, but they said, no. You know, why do you want to go to university still? Are you already a millionaire? You know. So is going to university about becoming rich, or is it about, you know, gaining knowledge? You know, what exactly is it for? Right. So that's a little my little preamble to this thing. I will say some more as we go along. But how do we define? How would you define success?
could have good relationship with the society. And all those things are very important. So although being able to take care of yourself financially is important, all right? We cannot cross that out and say, well, riches is not so important. It is important because we all need money to survive. Without it, we cannot survive. We cannot have the basic things in life that we need, all right? But we have to look at it from a broader standpoint.
Very, very good points there. As you were speaking, I remember a very well-known comedian, uh, Robin Williams. If you remember him, very, very well-known comedian. He was in so many movies. Very, very funny guy. But, you know, alas, he ended his life. And people used to say, well, the fame and the fortune and all of that was just like it was masking something, masking, you know, the pain, depression, whatever he was going through. Made a lot of people very happy, or laugh at least, you know. But he was in a real mental, you know, anguish, right? So it's really something to consider and have the right perspective on. So when you look at the follow question was, what is the typical profile? Is there a typical profile of a successful person? How do we look at that?
Well, I thought about it, and I look at persons that I know that are successful, and I have some pointers here. First, these persons to me, they are very goal-oriented. They always set goal. When they achieve one goal, they do not just stop there, but it's a continuous thing in them. And these persons, they tend to use every possible means that is available to them to make their goals a reality. Two, I find these persons are very optimistic. They always look on the bright side of things. They give up easily. Even though somebody may try to discourage them, they do not get discouraged very easily. Also, these persons, they tend to be very organized. They do not go about things haphazardly. All right, they study it and they know exactly what they should do. And also, they take calculated risks. They go brave. Risk is something that a lot of people are afraid of, you know. But these persons, I find, these successful persons, they take risks, but not just risks, calculated risks. They study the pros and cons, and so that's why they go so brave at what they want to achieve in life.
Yeah, those are some very good points. I'm thinking maybe I'm not so much of a risk. I've taken certain risks in my life, but maybe if I took more risks, I would get more reward. My most real risk I took was climbing La Soufrière. I have not been to La Soufrière in about maybe 5 years, but that was my 10th trip. I've been there several times, but I was not as prepared as I should have been physically. But so I took a chance with this thing. Normally, I'd want to do a little warm up before, walk for a couple of weeks before, but I went, tried to pace myself, and thankfully made it to the top. Right, it was great. It was a great trip. But it just says, as you talked about, goal setting, being optimistic. You know, on that particular trip, there are a couple of persons who started but didn't quite make it to the top for different reasons. I won't implicate them. But you know, it just says that you have to have. You mentioned perseverance. You know, sticking to the goal, and that's so important. And being organized. I'm trying to learn to do that still, in aspects of life. So yes, those are some very good points. Thanks for that.
I agree. I just wanted to add, I don't want to subtract anything because I think it was really rich information, but I just wanted to add that we have the growth mindset. You know, a successful profile, the person who believes, who is determined to achieve whatever goal they have set out. That growth mindset, I think, contributes to that type of profile.
Well, that's important. Looking at a video on YouTube with Dr. Harold Dweck, a strange name, but she's a psychologist, a professor of psychology, and she has a book called Mindset. And the book, this would have probably been about maybe over 10 years ago this book was released, but it talks about the various factors. They mentioned growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And she mentions that what determines whether we grow, whether we succeed in any particular sphere of life is whether for that particular sphere we have a growth mindset or our mindset says, no, I can't do any more than I'm doing. I can't improve this particular area of my life. For example, if you think your artistic ability is limited, you can't do anything more, then you're less likely to work on it. It's not that you could not improve, but you're likely to work on it if you think that, I can only do so much, or I can't sing, right? Then you won't put the effort there. But if you think, well, in terms of your career, right, the sky is the limit, I can do that. Then the mind, powerful thing, right? We talk about that. What the mind conceives, it can achieve, kind of thing. So she makes that sort of definition, and it is something that she says you can apply in every aspect of life. But how do you see this as an educator? I wanted to apply this. I wanted to pick your brain on this as an educator, because she mentions applying this to students in particular, and trying, because they call her a motivation specialist. And you mentioned working with students, young people before. How do you get young people to shift a fixed mindset? I'm not good at maths, for example, or I'm not good at science. Maybe they're not, I mean, how do you reach a point where, okay, this child cannot do this, but then, they're not particularly good at this particular subject, but at least for Sik's sake, you want them to pass, right? So how do you move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset?
All right, so there are some children with doubt, self-doubt. With a fixed mindset, they can't achieve it because others may have told them that. But when I get into contact with these children, you try your best to empower them. You use your own personal testimony to share with them that they can move from one level to the next. For example, at Common Entrance, now known as CPEA, I wasn't successful. I didn't pass at first, and it wasn't because I couldn't do the work. Some other barriers, there were some other barriers, home and so on. And I was determined that I was not going to make this me. And I regrouped. I got into another school. Regrouping for me meant going to a different institution because, of the little guilt and the shame and so on, and trying again. And at the second time, I passed, right? So sometimes failure can hold them back from this mindset and keep them in this fixed position. But letting them know that they can do it, even, just the small steps. So you cannot read, we're going to start with this level, and then I'm going to move you up to this level. And at each step, we are going to celebrate. And that's very important. I have it somewhere about, in this discussion. But celebrating each step gives them this motivation, also intrinsic motivation to want to grow. And I've seen that. Sorry to be babbling, but I had this experience today. We we are trying this new thing where we are having after-school lessons for 20 minutes. And one of the teachers, we call them mentors. So one of the mentors said, you know, I was with student X and I gave him some words, and this word was fighting him. And he went home and he tried his very best at the word, and he came back and he said, Miss, all in the back, me sing the word. Me sing it, me make song, me do this. And you know, she said, yes. And she started complimenting him, encouraging him, you know, and whereas other students would shy away, because he's in the upper class, as you mentioned, CSEC, he's getting ready, he would come back to her. So once we find a way to motivate these children, they would change these, you know, this fixed mindset to a growth. They want to grow. They want to succeed and achieve. Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. Dr. Dweck actually mentions that. She mentions one of the factors in achieving a growth mindset is praise. Or you might say affirmation, complimenting them, encouragement, you know, that they can actually do this thing. And what does that say then about whether it's parents, other mentors, the role that, you know, all of us have in really giving the right kind of praise? Because she talks about there's a wrong kind of praise and a right kind of praise, for example. So she says, well, you don't want to praise them about things that are like, oh, you're so intelligent. Or, you know, on the opposite side of that, you might say, well, you might say something that makes them think that their intelligence is limited, right? But you want to praise their effort, for example, right? Encouraging them by, you know, you did well, you tried hard. So it's more about the process than about, you know, the what they have displayed, all right? So, or what you might, how you might assess their ability there and then, because you want them to grow from where they are to a higher level, all right? So it's an interesting thing. How do we ensure that we are giving the right kind of encouragement, whether to students or to, you know, or to your own children? Because it then comes over from the academic side over into family, you know, other relationships, because she makes that leap. She actually did this thing where she went to the Middle East and she applied the same growth mindset to the conflicts between the Israelis, the Jews, and the Palestinians, right? Because she said, if this thing is going to be worth its salt, it must be able to be tested in the toughest situation, right? So success in that conflict, right? Applying it there, growth mindset applied to that kind of conflict. All right, so how do we use praise in a positive, in a good way? That's the question. Praise, yeah, or affirmation, as we call it.
Yeah. As you rightly said, the praise must match basically what the child or what the person has done. You don't want to be giving them highfalutin things, you know. But us as educators, we make sure that we use words of encouragement. You can do this. And make it real. Don't try not to pretend. You can do this. I have seen you, and you use their own experiences. Yes, I have seen you accomplish this task. You didn't know this at first, but look, you know the word now. You can do it. Let us try to apply what you did here in another situation. And you commend them for the efforts as you go along. So you don't go tell them, I'm just looking for an example, you know. You know they're struggling. And you don't go and tell them, as you said, you're this 100%, but you let them see the process, the different achievements at the different levels. And I think that is within itself will encourage them to want to succeed even more. They have a greater determination to reach their desired goals.
Let me transfer this to the business world, right? Since we have our business expert here. How do you relate this to employees or people in the, you see an employee, you see the potential in them, but then maybe they're not performing at the level that you would desire them to? All right, how do you handle that?
Well, it happens all the time. The employees sometimes who seem to be very lazy, don't want to do anything, like to just sit down a lot. They know what they're supposed to do, but you still have to encourage them and let them know why they're there at work. They're there to offer a service, right? And try to encourage them to apply them themselves. Some of them would improve with time. Some even would listen to their co-workers. You could have the co-workers encouraging them. Sometimes they do not want to listen to the boss, but they may get along better with their colleagues. Sometimes we could have a senior worker, and we could ask that senior worker to encourage their colleague, So sometimes they listen more to somebody who they feel is on the same level.
That's a good point. Yeah, we call it peer influence. It's
a little reward. I guess a little reward might be good to encourage that effort. And like when you have like different things like employee of the month and that kind of thing, because sometimes we do have I had a chat once that said, rise to stardom. So every time you met a requirement, I would put a star next to your name, and at the end, the person with the most stars would get a token, right, for their efforts because they have behaved themselves or, they have accomplished something. They have accomplished a task. So that came to my mind when I say like employees of the month, or you have something going where they have a little credit to their names and they can redeem it, points to their names, and they can redeem it at the end of, I don't know.
Yeah, that's something that we do. We do like a coupon. And you use as cash.
Yes, I have seen that.
Reward the employees from time
to
time, encourage them to perform. All right.
That's good. Good incentives, right?
Yes.
And everybody needs a little motivation now and then, to get to be better and to improve. All right. So those are some good points. There is a disparity. There's a disconnect that we see sometimes in relationships or in people, in the sense that someone can be very successful in one area of life but seemingly fail in another. Very good business person, achieved academically, but maybe failed, maybe married 2-3 times. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be their fault that the marriage didn't work, but sometimes it may be. Or they may not be, maybe they are not having good relationships with their children, for example, or other siblings, other family members. I know of persons who are, very accomplished, professionally, but in terms of interpersonal relationships, not so much, right? Why, how do you explain that, and how do you fix that? I know you're not psychologists, but what advice would you give in terms of holistic, success? You're both married, you have families, and so how do we ensure that we have success not just professionally, business-wise, but in other aspects, including spiritual, because we don't want to leave that out.
I would say what we give attention to would grow and flourish, and what we ignore would deteriorate. Now, sometimes so much time is spent working. For me personally, I encourage people all the time when I meet them because I knew at this point in my personal life, it was just walk. It seemed as if it was just walk and church, walk and church. You go to work all day, you come home, you have to rush, you have a meeting, or it's church night, and weekends, it's still work time, you have to do the housework. And so sometimes I find the children were being neglected. All right? And you find time, take time out for your family. Set aside a day for family time. Take time out to go on a picnic. Because you find yourself working, and eventually the children are gone. Now you can relax a bit, but the children are gone. You don't have the time to spend with them. And so it's very important that we take time out, even for ourselves. Sometimes some people just work, and drop, and that's it. We need to take time out for ourselves, for family, for our relationship. People who are married, you need to take time out for your husband and for your wife as well. Sometimes what the husband likes to do may not be what I like to do. But we have to have a middle ground, sort of compromise, you know?
Yeah.
Because I hike a lot now and I enjoy it. But originally, I didn't like it. I'm telling you, I didn't like to go in the bushes. I just like to go in the road where it's clean and pretty. But to go in the mountain and between all those trees and all sorts of insects, all sorts of things when you go hiking. But my husband enjoys hiking. And I say, I have to make a sacrifice. I have to compromise. And so I said, let me go and do it. And I went. One time, two times, and I find myself enjoying it. And we have been doing it for many years now.
It's also
all right, so it's not only hiking, you know, but it's spending time with your spouse as well. So even though you may not like, eventually you get to like doing what they do. I find that's important. It helps with your relationship, building the family as well.
A very good point. So you get almost like triple benefits there. So you're building the relationship, you're spending time in nature, you're health-wise, you get benefits too. So that's a very good example. Thanks for that. All right, so couples take notes, our potential couples take notes from that. Very important. All right, want to add anything there?
I agree.
Yeah, that's some good advice. I remember this book by, I was going to ask earlier, you know, if you have any role models, because when we are, you know, talking about success, we normally have people in mind. Some of these maybe characters you read about in various, you know, storybooks or the Bible or from history, you know, individuals that you look up to that, you know, would have achieved great things, and he said, yes, I would like to be, you may not be that person, but you wish you had, you know, the kind of courage or drive that they had. And, you know, one of the persons that we, growing up, was uplifted to us as a role model was this neurosurgeon, Ben Carson, Dr. Ben Carson. Right, he has a book called Think Big, right? Gifted Hands also. The story, very, very, you know, talented neurosurgeon has gone into the political sphere now, but, you know, in terms of what he would have achieved, you know, success as a neurosurgeon, performing very, very complicated, delicate surgeries, you know, separating conjoined twins and that kind of thing. And, you know, when I read his book, would have read Gifted Hands, Think Big. It was one of those motivational, you know, things for me. That, you know, coming from the kind of background that he was coming from too, as you mentioned, you know, as an educator, he was having trouble as a youngster. I remember, you know, him describing how his mother gave him reading assignments, and even though she had her own, you know, academic challenges, she was able to motivate them, you know, him and his siblings, motivate them to the point that he was able to turn things around because he had a very bad temper. violent at one point, able to turn things around and perform. So that what's that say to us about, you know, the challenging, really, really challenging individuals or situations that might come across that, humanly speaking, you might be tempted to say, nah, this person just don't seem like they have what it takes or they can make it. You know, how do you still remain optimistic that, you know, you can help to make a difference in outside of a school setting, you know, in that person's life, that's in a person outside of the academic setting?
Okay, so I'm thinking about church. I'm also the children's leader. So there's this little boy, and he's very shy. And he would learn the things that he's supposed to learn. But on the day, he would flat out, he just can't do it. So what we would do, we would give him little tasks. So instead of giving him a paragraph, we'll give him one line. And then added to that, we put a support system. So we will pair him with his parent and bring that sort of encouragement, you know? So I am thinking in situations like those, we can chunk up the tasks so that the person can achieve. And I believe when they would have witnessed that they can achieve this task,
Small goals.
Small goals, then I believe that will really change them and encourage them to want to do better.
Okay.
Because we have some really difficult people, eh? Really difficult people.
Yes, yes.
But they are not far gone that God can't pull them back in, you know?
That's so true. So you do have to take it, you know, step by step and incrementally, you know, if you want to help people. Because if you look at it as a big goal, then it can seem very, very difficult, very insurmountable. I was discussing, I think we were talking in light of the last free hike. I think a friend of mine, we were discussing people who go to Mount Everest, right? Which is, you know, many times, several times higher than Lasso Free. And, you know, some persons don't make it. People actually die on the way, but they have this as a goal. But however high the mountain is, it is still one step at a time.
That's it.
You know, it's still step by step. Sometimes you stop, take a rest, and you go again, recover, go again. So that's how I think it applies to, generally speaking, to other aspects of life, that we don't be intimidated too much by the size of the goal, but have a plan, work towards it, get support too, because, you know, I find that that's a critical aspect of success. Sometimes you see people and you think, oh, they got there by themselves, or it seemed like they got there by themselves, and you kind of ignore all the support that went into that. Yeah.
Now that you're talking a little bit about goals and step at a time, I just brought these two things that helped me. So these are my planners. I bought this one.
Okay.
Right? And I was gifted this one. Well, this is my favorite color, and my name is on it. It's personalized. And
nice.
Yes, and these planners, as simple as they may seem, they help, because you spoke about organization from the beginning of a successful person. And when we're looking at it step by step, they help to achieve the small goals. So I know what I want to accomplish at the end of the year, by the end of the year, but I have to take it in strides. So every day I ensure, just to show you the little writings and scribbles and so on, you don't read it, you don't get to read. But I ensure that I accomplish these tasks because in the end, they're going to take me to the goal where I want. So just simple things. It doesn't have to be like these. It can be just a simple notebook,
Notepad,
a piece of paper you attach, and you make those steps. You make those steps.
I would also say determination and applying oneself also go a very long way. I've seen persons who, to others, were not doing so well. They were not the top students in school, but sometimes they end up being the medical doctors. Why? Which is very important.
That's quite true. A friend of mine in high school, he was not, the top performer, among the top performers, as you would say. But some persons are late, we call late bloomers as well. So you do have to, and this, I mean, educators have a hard job. I mean, I used to teach, so I know, I empathize, right? Because you have to resist the temptation to write off any student, even if you see that they're really not progressing as others, and it may be that the school environment is not really conducive, or the home environment is not really nurturing as it should be, and I've seen it several times. There are former students all over the place. All right, some are engineers, some are doctors, some are politicians. Or in school, you never thought, that kind of aptitude, but they were open to it, that they had a growth mindset, so that they were able to move from where they were. And it says that all of us in the society, go to that old saying, it takes a village, because, you have, when I think about role models, when I look back, there are a lot of persons, several persons I could point to. Persons in church, elders in church, business people, other family members. There are several persons who have helped to give me that motivation when you felt, boy, things tough, or you're not making the kind of progress. But you have these people you look up to, and they give you that extra inspiration, right, to persevere. The song by what is the song name? Perseverance. Razom, right. To really stick to it.
Yes.
And you make a very good point in terms of medical, in terms of persons sticking to their medical studies, in that you have. It's not necessarily only about your intellectual ability.
Right.
It's, can you stick to it? Dr. Dweck actually gives an example of that, where they assessed two groups of medical students. One that felt that they were, both of them at equal academic levels, but the one that had a growth mindset, or believed that they were studying not just to get good grades, but they were studying also because they enjoyed learning, right? They enjoyed the process of learning. They ultimately got better results at the end of the course, right? So that says something too about what is the motivation. That determines, that's a significant factor in terms of what you achieve, or how you achieve your goals. All right, so we're gonna close off with this one. Dealing with setbacks. How do we really overcome, because sometimes setbacks can really throw you down and set you back, literally set you back. But how do you deal with setbacks in a way that is positive? And we'll close on that one.
Should I begin? All right. So dealing with setbacks. when I think of that, I think of reframing failure as a learning opportunity. So you may not achieve a task and you may see it as being a failure. But instead of seeing it that way, why not learn from it? Why is it I didn't achieve this? What could I have done differently? What is it? You know, it's basically like regrouping. And I do that a lot in my own practice, with my own self. Yes, I do a self-reflection because I need to achieve what I want in my mind. And even though I have a setback, I'm not going to make it deter me. A learning opportunity. Stay focused on the long-term goals and not the short defeats. You know, so you have a goal to attain. I am going to do it. Believe in yourself that you're going to do it, and you will. Allow me a minute or two to share my testimony on that. You know, also seek feedback. Don't think you can do it by yourself. Some of us feel we're superhuman and we don't want to be told what to do or how we could have done it differently. We rely on our own strength. Sometimes we don't even ask, we don't consult God, you know. And I mean, this is also a Christian talk. We don't consult God and we expect to be successful, but you don't want to consult God as Christians. No, wrong, wrong. Seek feedback. Review the strategies and go again. Surround yourself with encouragement, people who would push you, people who would give you affirmation, people who will pull you back on the path, you know, people who will pray for you. And get yourself away from this self-isolation. So because you didn't achieve this, oh, I am not good for myself, I feel this way. Of course you'll feel that way, of course. It's only human. But when you feel that way discouraged, you don't stay by yourself. Surround yourself with people who can help you.
So you mentioned the money. You want to give a little bit more on that?
Well, yes. Growing up, I am from a very poor background, as you would say, socioeconomic background, and nothing seemed to be going the way I deal with basic needs, food, clothing, and shelter. They were often a struggle, you know. So some people see me dressed now and they, yeah, you have it, but it wasn't always like that. And I spoke to myself, and I said, I am not determined to carry on this way. I'm going to make a change. And one day, I think I was in Form 5. I cannot remember who the motivational speaker was, but somebody came and they spoke to us about setting goals. I didn't really know anything about that until they spoke to us about setting goals and trying to achieve on a paper. I guess that's why I like papers. I wrote down what I wanted to accomplish, and I had a time frame. So by the age of 30, I should be married with children. Mind you, I didn't even know how I'm going to get the first one, but I should have 3. And I don't know if I presented them to God, but eventually, as I grew in my Christian journey, I presented them. But at the time, all I knew is that I wanted to accomplish these things. As life went on, they didn't quite go as planned, as my plan. They went as God's plan, because I achieved all of them eventually. And I said, boy, while growing up, I always had this text. Talk to yourself. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I kept that at the back of my mind. So even while I didn't know how I was going to accomplish achieving a degree, I went and I said, I don't have anything to fear because a cattle on a thousand hill belongs to God. He has the money. He knows where it is. He don't set up banks and credit unions, and he is going to set me up good. And I pursued that path and was successful in that. Now I have a career goal in mind of building, on this journey. You have to be strategic on this journey so that I can achieve what I set out to. I have a family goal. You spoke about some of the breakdowns and studying and so on, studying and career can bring to improve. How am I going to do that? I am making little strides at a time.
Or, achieve certain things, end of their journey or at certain milestones along the way, or mileposts along the way, and you think, oh, look at what that person has done. Not knowing, the backstory, all the obstacles, the hindrances, the setbacks, so many difficulties people have to endure, and I always I often say to them, I remember when we didn't have family, they could not conceive of such a thing. Grew up in a certain generation, certain era, before we have all these modern amenities. We should really, not that you're gonna, children, so why give us all these things then? We must take advantage of them. It's not that you don't want your children to have these conveniences, but I think appreciation they now have, and also help them to realize, and that's how they are going to achieve the next level as well in their own career. I came across this phrase, I fail does not mean I am a failure. You fail, I just say you're forward.
Yes. Yeah. And even if you have failed in life, just remember, a lot of ones who have succeeded in life, they didn't just get there, they went through many failures before they succeeded.
Just like the KFC, the Colonel. Yes. Many attempts, and he failed many times. But look at the franchise now, it's all over the place. In closing, I would just like to say, the successful mind has to be values and set goals. And all in all, when that is, everybody can be successful. Whatever they set their mind to, they can achieve.
Yes, thank you, well said. That's really important. Thanks for your very valid, insightful comments. For this part one, I would say, of our mindset discussion. We'll follow up next time around at part two. I really want to thank our panelists for this evening, for their wisdom, very good insights that they have shared with us. And we trust that, the points that were shared will be joining us next time around for our next relationally, socially, and of course, spiritually. We encourage you to, put God first in everything, and He will indeed give you as the Bible says, good success, sweet success.